You're watching the Mondays with Midja podcast. Midja is founder and CEO of Legal Leadership, a company specialising in the leadership training and coaching of lawyers. Get set to jumpstart your week with a shot of mojo as Midja and her guests talk all things life, love and leadership.
Hey, it's Monday and I'm Midja and welcome to the podcast all about life, love and leadership. Now, I have a very special guest in the podcast studio today, one of my besties, Caralee Fontenele. And I'm going to let Caralee introduce herself to you. She wears lots of different hats in her businesses. So welcome to the podcast, Caralee.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to coming and seeing your amazing podcast set up.
Love this.
And congratulations on starting your own podcast.
Thank you. Caralee is a seasoned podcast host with a couple of podcasts under her belts, which she'll tell us a little bit about. So you wear lots of different hats, Caralee, as I said. So talk to us a little bit around exactly what you do. What's a day or a week like for Caralee?
Oh, it's a little bit all over the place, to be honest.
Yep.
But I really enjoy having the variety. So the first thing that I do is that I am the director of Collective Family Law. So we are a family law firm based in Southeast Queensland. I have a team of 14. We have 3 offices and we service people in the realms of family law. So anything to do with divorce, separation, that sort of thing. That is busy. However, I have created a firm that doesn't rely on me all the time. So I have a lot of freedom around that, which is awesome.
That's when we get to have fun together,
yes,
Caralee.
that's when we get to have fun together. So that's been really great to be able to get the firm to a place that I'm not the one who's needing to do everything. So, and I'll talk more about that as we go on, I suppose, today.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I do is I have a business. It's actually called Being Unstoppable, the business name, but I run a program called the Scalable Business Lounge, and that is a program for law firm owners who want to create a law firm that doesn't rely on them all the time or anymore. So, often law firm owners, they start their business because they think they can do it better and have more freedom and have more money and profit than you would otherwise if you're working for someone. And they want to create a life for themselves. And then they get in a year or two, the excitement wears off and they realize they're now servicing clients 40, 50 hours a week, as well as now running a business and wondering how they can hire a team. And all of a sudden they have the worst job in the world. And they're the worst boss for themselves.
Absolutely. I saw, I think it's a TikTok, or I think I saw it on a TikTok where people were like, I hated my 9-to-5 job, so I gave that up and started my own business. And now I work 7 days a week, 14 hours, 17 hours a day. It's crazy.
Exactly. And law firm owners, we're a special breed.
Absolutely. I know many of you.
Yes. And I think one of the reasons around that is the personality types are often perfectionist. We're risk adverse. We don't like other people doing things for us. We find it hard to delegate. We can do it better than everyone else, which leads to maxed out, burnt out, and as you will know, not great leaders often because we don't know how to let go.
Absolutely. And the question I get asked a lot by leaders in all different industries, but particularly in the law, is how can I enjoy leadership? Like, I'm on a bit of a mission to make people love leadership, and unless you can work out that time and scale that business, as you said, and what you do with law firm owners, it's very tough to be in love with what you do and to have fun and playfulness and lightness.
Well, if you're
leadership.
Stressed out to the max and you're running client files 40, 50 hours a week, as well as trying to step up as a leader, as well as trying to be the marketing manager, the finance manager, like all the things that you're doing in your business, you can see why people get to a point that they can't grow any further because they're maxed out.
And then that greener that greener grass that people thought leaving someone else's practice to start their own doesn't seem so green anymore.
That's right. And people come into my program, and one of the reasons they don't want to join the program is because they think, well, I don't have any time to do this. So it's this cycle of, well, I don't have any time to do this. I'm so maxed out.
Yep.
But it's like, I can show you how to not be maxed out anymore.
I
can show you how to start doing high-end tasks that are going to actually move the needle forward. You're going to work less and earn more and have more free time.
Love that, to go on chopper rides and on
All
boats and all the stuff we do.
All the things that we do.
We love that. Because one of the main things, Caralee, because people, wherever I go, people know that we're good friends. And so they asked me about yourself, or they'll make a comment about you to me, all brilliant, all wonderful feedback. But you know what? The main thing people say, nearly what everyone says to me about you, is they're like, how does she do it all?
Yes.
Like, how does she fit all of that in? Because she's go. And I think, because this podcast is all about, life hacks or how to live a life that you want. So like, if you talk to that for a moment around how can you produce that or have a life kind of like that where you've got lots of different variety.
Yeah, so I think the thing, because I get asked that all the time as well, people often say to me, so that doesn't come as a surprise to me, people often say, how do you do all that? So one of the other things that I've done, which isn't part of what I'm doing now, but in the past I've written 3 cookbooks, promoted them and gone and done cooking shows and things like that, and spent a lot of time away from the firm to do that. And obviously now I run the Scalable Business Lounge, which takes up probably more of my time than the firm does, as well as the time to have fun and have a family and all of that. And quite honestly, I'm not very busy.
And last year renovated 2 houses. Let's just put that on the agenda as well.
Renovated 2 houses and run a holiday house, an Airbnb. In
your spare time.
Yeah, in my spare time. It sounds like a lot, but when you have the skills to delegate things, when you have the skills to empower people to work for you in a way that they are taking charge and they have their own leadership roles within your companies or businesses or the things that you do, you have so much time because you have a team of people who are helping you.
So how have you been able to get to that point where you can extend that trust and feel comfortable in that space? Because as you said, for a lot of professionals who have been great with their technical lawyers or accountants or whatever field they're in, how do you let some of that go in order to delegate and extend trust and be okay with that?
I think, it happens over time because you don't start with a larger team. Most people, you start with a smaller team. So like everyone who's starting from the beginning, you start with a team of 1 or 2. And that's where I started. And it's really, I think, choosing people to be on your team who have great skills for what they do. So, and for the lawyers that I hire lawyers that are far better family lawyers than I am. Yeah. So they're amazing.
Yeah, I know some amazing lawyers. I was probably not one of those amazing lawyers myself, but could lead and manage other lawyers and legal teams.
And I think just recognizing that you're not the only person in the world who has that skill. And you have a whole lot of skills. I have a whole lot of things that I'm just not good at. And I'm not ashamed to admit those things. I'm not the most detail-orientated person, so I need a manager in my law firm who's really in the detail. And that's where you create great teams because I get her out of the detail so that we can move forward, but she gets me into the detail so we can move forward as well.
What a great combination.
Yes, that's exactly
It's a magic team.
It's a magic team. So you have to hire people around you who fill your gaps, and you need to know what those gaps are. And I think that takes a lot of self-discovery, work, and just realizing that it's okay to not be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I talk a lot about that, and some of my clients they know within themselves that perfectionist nature and just cannot let that go.
Yeah.
And expect sometimes some of their junior team members, whether they're, junior lawyers, to do things the way they would do them and in the time that they would do them, and sort of remembering that they are starting out.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to take them longer. They're going to fail. They're going to stuff up things. They're going to, and to be okay with that, allow that space.
I think on a team as well, you've got to understand that everyone has different qualities, and some people are really amazing at some things and some people aren't, and giving people leeway and accepting yourself and them for your downfalls and for where you are excellent.
So because yesterday actually I spoke to a number of law students just finishing their degrees now, going into new roles. What do you look for when you're recruiting a lawyer?
Do not look for their GPA. I could not give a rat's about what their GPA is.
Yep.
What I look for is someone who's culturally going to be a really good fit in our firm, someone who is really keen, someone who particularly wants to do family law. If I get a uni student come to me and you can see that they don't really care what practice area they want to be in, they're not a fit for our firm. We need people who are passionate about family law, because it takes a special person to be a family lawyer.
Yeah.
And that, I think, goes across the board for a lot of areas of law.
Absolutely. Aces in their places, as we used to say. Different lawyers and different skills and different personalities fit different areas of law and different types of practices of law, different firms.
That's right. So, so really it's around being a good cultural fit and someone who's going to use their own initiative, which often you don't know until you've had someone for a period of time.
Yep.
Which, that we get juniors that come on board, and within 3 or 4 months we can see whether or not they're a fit or not. And so, juniors don't last sometimes.
Yep.
And they need to move. And generally those people find that family law is not for them, and, they'll move on to a different area. And it takes time to work out what you want.
Absolutely. What on the flip side of that, what are potential candidates and young professionals looking for from their employer and from their leaders, do you think, right now? What do they want?
It's been so long since I have been a junior, but for example, we've got a junior at the moment who is amazing. She is excellent. Just picks things up really easily. And I think the thing as a junior as well that's really important to know, you're not really a lawyer yet. You feel like you are, and you're all excited about it, 100%. And you have the right to be excited about it because it is exciting. But you are there to serve the senior lawyers.
Yes.
Your role is to serve them and make their life easier by doing their low-end tasks, which trains you to start doing legal work. And so we've got this lady with us now, and she was a PLT student of ours, and I didn't have a role for her at the time, and she went to another law firm.
Okay.
And she came back to us in tears, very upset that maybe law wasn't for her because it was so hard, because there was a lot of yelling and I think probably old school lawyering going on.
High pressure.
And that's just not how we run our firm at all. And so we ended up having her back, and she's been amazing. And, so for her, she was looking for a fit for her.
Absolutely.
A cultural fit for her. So, and, that particular law firm, they have great staff retention. They are great lawyers. They have juniors that last for years. So I think for her, that just wasn't a fit for her.
Absolutely. And you would have had that in your career with workplaces and particular leaders and particular teams.
I've never really been employable.
Caralee needs to be on the other side of the fence for a while, I think. Get a different perspective, I think.
I think I've held a job down for 6 months in my life.
And then just had to start all your own businesses because that's what you do. But certainly I know for me, and that's people say to me, why did I stay so long at Shine? And I'm like, when I walked in, I knew they were my people. And I felt it. I felt it. It was just this feeling of I'm meant to be here. These are my people. It was every day, rainbow and sunshine. No. But I just felt a strong connection, and it was a culture connection.
And
Absolutely.
It's finding, and for us, I want to employ people, whether it's our admin team or our legal team. I want people on my team who want to find their home.
Yes.
People who are committed to their role and they want to find the place where they've got their people. And I think that's what we have in our firm.
When you get that, and I've been in your firm. I know lots of people that work in your firm, and it's definitely a vibe. You know it when they talk about you as the owner and of that leader, but also of other leaders that you've got in the organisation. And when people talk about their work, talk about their clients, talk about where they work, pretty quickly, I think, about how they feel about that. So.
Yeah. And, like in terms of leadership, it's hard as a law firm owner when you're starting out and you don't actually see yourself as a leader initially.
Really?
No.
What do you see yourself as?
And it's interesting because all the people that are in my Scalable Business Lounge, they are the same. They don't see themselves as a leader. There's this real, and they don't like the use of the term boss.
Right.
And things like that. And so it takes time to get there. So, like when you first start your law firm, you just want to have that freedom and make some money and get some clients through the door. And
Absolutely.
Then you start employing people and you employ 1, 2, and 3. And, it's great because you can go and have fun lunches and, create this. But then you get more and more people on board, which bring more and more issues because people bring issues with them. And so
Absolutely.
then you have to really start stepping up as a leader and addressing things. And so one of the things that I really struggled with up until more recently, let's say the last few years, is transparency of sharing like where I was taking this business.
Okay.
And so now I'm much more, transparent with, say, where I'm taking it, what our goals are, figures, and all of that actually inspires people because they're part of something and
Absolutely.
they love that.
So was it an issue that it was all in your head and you weren't sharing it, or were you a little bit uncertain yourself around that, or what was the hesitation about sharing?
I always had very firm goals. I think
I know you're a set those goals and
Yes.
tick them off kind of gal.
But I think there was a fair, if you shared how successful the business was or how successful you
Yes.
wanted it to be, that it could lead to resentment.
Who she thinks she is?
Yeah, all that.
She's making all these millions and here I am.
Yeah.
Not in that voice, obviously, but in a very similar way.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I've spoken to other law firm owners around this, around the transparency of numbers and figures and goals, and certainly I think it gives people a perspective of what it takes to run a business, the costs of running a business and the expenses, and how much it costs to get a client through that door and to deliver a result for that client.
And I've been learning that by sharing these things. So, for example, this year so far, we've had an issue with having no initial appointments available in our calendar. So when people log on through my ad, which has cost X amount per click or whatever, and a lot per month for the overall fee, they click on the ad and then they click on the calendar and they see there's no availability. So it's a problem because, ouch. But you try and get your team to understand that by telling them we need to open up the calendars.
And we need appointments available.
It doesn't work because they're like, I'm already maxed out. I don't want to see any more appointments. But when you take the time to share the numbers with them, this is what we spend on ads. This is what it costs per click. This is what a conversion costs. This is how we're, and I showed them on, like, this is what clients are seeing. If you were in dire need for a family lawyer and you Googled family lawyer, Brisbane or Gold Coast, and you clicked on an ad and then you clicked on a calendar appointment and you saw no availability, what would you do?
Next.
I would
Next
click
law
off
firm.
it.
Yeah.
I would click off it. What would you do? So it's a discussion and a real, like actually helping them see from your perspective so that they can understand why you are implementing things,
Love that.
why you are doing things, rather than just being like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because when you say this is what you're doing, you just get a backlash or grumbling actually behind your back.
Yeah. That's when you get that, I talk a lot about compliance versus commitment, and you just get compliance. You get,
it's unhappy compliance.
Caralee's telling me what to do, so I'll just tick a box and do it or do what she's asking me to do. But you don't get understanding and commitment and loyalty. And the great thing is which is what we're trying to do as leaders, is to mentor and coach and develop the skills of those around us. And that's exactly what you're doing.
And empower them so that they can make good decisions. And they can't make good decisions if they don't know what's going on. But I think some people lead from a place of fear. What if they steal my whole
scarcity
funnel? Mm-hmm. What if they go out on their own? What if they,
What if?
You're going to have team members go out on their own.
Absolutely.
You're going to have, if you're in business long enough, which you are in business for you're not in business for 5 minutes, which is what I tell everyone in the Scalable Business Lounge.
Yeah.
This is a long game. We're all in business for our career. A lot of us, especially as lawyers, you're going to be in business as a law firm owner, particularly if you can make it successful, for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yes.
You might be even growing a legacy firm for your family, so you're going to have people that go out on their own.
Absolutely.
You're going to have team members come and go. I've recently come to the realization.
I know this realization.
that I'm always going to be hiring.
Yes.
I'm always going to be hiring.
Yes.
And I think there's this, I sort of have always felt like I'll hire this person and they're going to be with me forever. Like you want that.
I used to think that as well. I remember, Steve at Shine often saying to me, because I'd be all in a huff when a team member left. If a lawyer resigned, I can't believe it. And, after all I've done.
Well, you do feel offended. You're
feel
human.
that.
You're human.
And he would be like, very calmly, he'd say to me, let them go, Midge. Let them go. And, and I'm like, no, I don't want to let them go.
I've put all this effort into them.
And so, I think that's particularly then if it's your own business and it's your own firm and stuff, absolutely tough. But it sounds like already, which I know lots of business owners experience, people will go, maybe they'll come back, they refer work, there's other relationships, there's other connections that are made.
And, interestingly, I was just kind of pondering this the other day, and we're not just in the small community of the Gold Coast anymore. We've sort of expanded out to more of a southeast Queensland brand, and I'm continuing to scale my firm. I'm hoping it's going to grow beyond that as well, but sometimes you can feel the pressure of your competitors, especially when not just clients, but when it's hard to get lawyers to come and work in your team and things like that. And it's interesting. So since 2012, when I first started my law firm back in 2012, there were I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different law firms that were the top of their game in family law. And we looked to them like, oh, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to be like that firm? And they don't even exist anymore. Things have happened.
Absolutely.
Life goes on. Things change. Things evolve. And ultimately what ends up happening is that different firms open because different firms close. there's been people that pass away or go bankrupt or, retire and they don't want to keep running the firm or whatever it might be. And those solicitors go on to open their own firm. So you get new competitors, but old ones drop off, but it's kind of all the same people just being recycled anyway. So
oh, look, they've popped up again somewhere.
Yeah. So things come and go, people come and go.
Tide goes in, tide goes out, as someone used to say to me. And I think you can also use that analogy within law firms and within businesses, because a lot of people will say to me, there's nowhere to go in this firm. There's no promotional opportunities. Do I have to wait for someone to die before I get promoted? And I think looking at it, that there is always opportunity. There are always niches, and looking out for that opportunity. And things will not stay the same.
100%.
They will not stay the same.
And I'm so aware of that and I don't want to be a firm that is like that. I want to be a firm where people can know that I'm going to hand the baton on to them. And so we've created, as you know, because I had Midja's advice around it, a new structure where we've created a leadership levels or layers so that there's opportunity for people to get the experience and be empowered as a leader of a team, and there's opportunities for them to grow up into new roles.
Love that. And so, Caralee, I have a segment on the podcast called Leadership. And it is the shittiest thing that I would prefer it if the actual guest, it was something they did, right? To be a bit vulnerable. Just a mistake, the shittiest thing, or something you're willing to share. Just a mistake you've made and the impact of that, something you wouldn't do again in a leadership role. Something spring to mind?
There are so many things that I have done that I wouldn't do again. So many. Oh, what can spring to mind? I mean, I've over the years had so many different weird experiences with team members. I think one of the things that I wouldn't do again is like overreact on an issue,
right, and
get your knickers in a knot. I don't like this leadership style of, come in here and you're out today, particularly. Sometimes as a leader and employing people, you can get really excited about them.
And how does that end sometimes, Caralee?
Not good.
Are they like your new shiny thing in the office that you want to play with? And then you're like, oh no, I too much too soon. And yeah.
So that's definitely, and you can get excited about people because you think that they're going to come in and fix all these things, and then it just turns to rubbish, and then you've got to backtrack. And
sometimes I'm now more skeptical of people that I'm really like, woo, about at first.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the slow burn. Maybe not so much in my love life. I do believe in the spark to start with. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, particularly in the workplaces, I've found over the years of working with people, sometimes the people I have the best relationships with and actually work the best and produce the best work are people that at the start when I met them, I'm like, oh, okay, you're not particularly my cup of tea. Maybe they're very different to me or, that. And over the years, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're exactly what I need.
Yes, and that's one of the things. So, elevating people is probably a mistake in your own, not elevating them in their role, but elevating them in the importance that they have to you. I've done that a few times too many.
Yes.
And what that leads to is at the end of the day, the team member is going to leave and do their own thing anyway, and you've elevated them into this important person in your life.
Yes.
Nearly in a personal way, and it then leads to really you being really hurt. And I think that a lot of leaders do that. I've got lots of friends in leadership roles, and we've all had that sort of similar experience, and it leads to you being hurt and resentful and feeling like you've had your heart broken by somebody.
Yeah, it's like someone owed you something.
Well, they're an employee, but you've elevated them to more than that for some reason, you know, in your law firm.
Yes.
So, and I've definitely made that mistake very early on. And again, smaller team, you're only looking after a couple of people, you're really reliant on someone, you've brought someone in, they're part of your story and part of your journey. And then you kind of feel like a bit shat on.
Yeah. And I've seen it the opposite way as well, where employees feel like, what, like this is an injustice and I can't believe like that my boss would do this to me. And I'm like, it's a role. It's a professional relationship. If, you know, and there's been lots of circumstances around that. And so both ways, it's like, okay, you can absolutely have that connection and that loyalty and things like that. But
importantly, like reading the book, The 4 Agreements, that not taking things personally, which is one of the agreements. So,
love that.
You know, and I think around being a leader, that is a really important thing to just keep in mind, to not take it personally.
Love that. So I spoke just briefly there around one of my love rules is that there has to be a spark.
Yes.
And, you know, we're very good friends, so Caralee knows about my dating life.
Maybe too much.
Yeah, maybe I'm
information.
an oversharer. You don't want to get Caralee and I with a bottle of champagne because all the stories start.
Or a 1-hour trip down the M1 where my mouth is on the floor.
Caralee. So, like, words of advice for me, some dating advice, Caralee, because you know where I'm at. I'm looking for a big love. Hit me with
There is
my
absolutely
advice.
no dating advice that I could give you.
Oh, my goodness, no.
Because you are so much more experienced at dating than I am.
What about love, Caralee? Anything to give me.
So the first bit of advice, which you don't need, is that about dating would be that people, I think, especially women, need to not be so uptight about dating.
Right.
And date like it's a work coffee.
Yes.
Like, if you find someone online, like, don't judge a book by a cover. You never know who you're going to meet. How many times do you go out on a business coffee with no expectation, because it's not a date, so you don't have an expectation? Because when we go dating, we have all these expectations about what they look like and the vibe and whatever. When you go on a business coffee, you have no expectation and you meet someone, and sometimes you've got nothing to talk about and it's a 20-minute coffee, you do your business and off you go. And sometimes you sit there for an hour and a half or 2 hours because they're so interesting.
Like
people.
when we met, Caralee, a few years ago. And now we're like, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
make that connection.
Take the heat out of the idea
expectations
of dating
as well.
So date like it's a business, you know, you're swapping a business card.
Yep.
You may never do business with them. You may do business with them. That business.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Caralee. Now, where are people going to find more of you? And how can people work with you? How can people find out more about you? Give us the spiel, Caralee.
I'm very easy to find.
You are.
You can
You're a bit like Midja.
Yes.
Caralee.
Yes, and we've actually got our cars parked right next to each other at the moment. They're nearly black and white matching Midja number plate, Caralee number plate.
We can't hide.
No, we can't hide. So you can find me. You can literally just Google Caralee and my websites will pop up. But CaraleeFontenele.com, and on all the socials, Caralee Fontenele. So I'm super easy to find, except, of course, Fontenele can be tricky to spell. But if you just pop in Caralee, starting with a C, you will find me.
Wonderful. Excellent. Love that. We end every episode with our fortune cookies that don't have any cookies. They're just fortunes.
Oh, great.
I know.
We don't need the calories.
We don't need the cookies. So I have 2 pop-up cards here. And this is like a little bit of, I don't know, send you on your way with a message that was meant for you, a little bit of woo-woo from the universe. I know. Sometimes I get a bit woo-woo. So we have Carpe Diem or Trust Your Crazy Ideas. Which box do you want to pick from?
Trust Your Crazy Ideas.
Okay, perfect. So Caralee, just pick one of those.
I have many crazy ideas.
You do. We've spoken about lots of them.
Can we
shuffle. What's the universe telling you to pick? That one.
Something in the middle.
Yeah. Love that.
And do you open it? How exciting.
Yeah, pop it open.
It's like a little
and
gift. Trust
yes.
your ideas.
What does it say?
Don't give up. Remember, it's always the last key on the keychain that opens the door.
I love that.
I love it too. And I'll tell you why I love it. Because I started the Scalable Business Lounge, and as Midja knows, I'd had this bubbling idea. Bubbling for ages. And it took me a while to get there, and I wasn't really brave enough because, you know, who am I to tell people how to run their law firm or, you know, turn their law firm into something amazing that doesn't need them anymore and gives them all the freedom in the world. Anyway, I got there in the end, but starting a new business is hard.
Yes.
It's hard. And starting a new business in a different format. So, you know, the firm, it's service-based. It's kind of in-person service-based. What I do with the Scalable Business Lounge is online. It's lawyers. It's people from all over the world that join me. And, you know, it can be hard to get new clients in there sometimes. It's been a challenge, even though I know the product is amazing. So that's awesome because what I've learned about a business, whether you're in a law firm or whatever business you're in, you've got to just keep tweaking. Don't throw it away. Don't. I saw someone this morning on, they'd had no success with launching an online program so they decided that they wanted to do an entire new idea. It's not that the idea is bad. You've just got to find the channel to get people in there.
Yeah, it could be the last key on the keychain.
It could be the last key on the keychain.
I love that. I love that. Huge thank you, Caralee, for being in our studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to chat. And that's a wrap for our podcast. I'm Midja, and thank God it's Monday. Bye, everyone.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Mondays with Midja podcast. Host Midja Fisher is a leadership expert, keynote speaker, coach and facilitator. To find out more about Midja, visit midja.com.au or follow her on Instagram, Midja Fisher, and make sure you subscribe, share and leave a review.